The gun in Godiya Yakubu's hand was shaking so hard the barrel kept tapping against her palm like a heartbeat that refused to slow down. Blood dripped from a cut above Choi Seung-ho's eyebrow, painting a thin red line down his cheek, and behind him 3 men in black suits lay groaning on the hangar floor. Godiya's uniform, the crisp navy blue of Korean Sky Airlines, was torn at the shoulder. Her hands were not made for holding weapons. Her hands were made for pouring orange juice into small plastic cups and pointing to emergency exits. But tonight, those same hands were pointed at a man twice her size, a man the newspapers called the Wolf of Gangnam, and she was screaming at him in a mixture of English and pidgin that made no sense to anyone in that hangar except her. This was not how her story was supposed to go. 3 months earlier, Godiya Yakubu was just another Nigerian flight attendant trying to survive Seoul on a work visa and a prayer, dodging her landlord's calls and sending half her salary back home to her mother in Kaduna. She did not know men like Choi Seung-ho existed outside of Korean dramas. She definitely did not know she would one day hold a gun to protect one. It started on an ordinary Tuesday at Incheon International Airport, the kind of Tuesday where the air conditioning was too cold and the coffee machine in the staff lounge was broken again. Godiya was walking through the first-class lounge with her colleague Blessing, a fellow Nigerian who had been in Korea 2 years longer and knew every piece of gossip worth knowing when the entire lounge went silent. A woman's voice cut through the quiet like a blade. "You embarrassed me in front of my father's business partners. Do you know what that man matters to my family?" Every head turned. A tall Korean man stood near the window overlooking the runway, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than Godiya's yearly rent. His jaw was tight. His eyes were calm in a way that felt dangerous, like a lake that looked still on the surface but had something moving underneath. In front of him stood a woman in designer heels, her face red with fury, a diamond ring glinting in her palm before she threw it at his chest. "We are done, Seung-ho. Andway. I am not marrying a man who cannot even protect his own name." The ring bounced off his suit and rolled across the marble floor. She turned on her heel and walked away, dragging her Louis Vuitton luggage behind her, leaving him standing there in front of at least 30 strangers, all of them pretending very hard not to be watching. Godiya watched anyway. She was Nigerian. Pretending not to watch was simply not in her blood. "Chai," she whispered to Blessing. "This one a public embarrassment show. Somebody get camera?" Blessing elbowed her in the ribs. "Godiya, shift. That's Choi Seung-ho. You don't know who that is?" "Should I know? I know Bobrisky, I know DeVito, I know this one. That man practically owns half of Gangnam. People don't cross him. People don't even look at him too long." But Godiya was already moving, because the ring the woman threw had rolled all the way to her foot, and someone needed to pick it up before it disappeared into the crowd of businessmen who all had shoes shinier than their morals. She bent down, picked up the ring, and walked straight toward the man everyone else was avoiding like he had a curse on him. "Oga, your ring done land for my leg." He looked at her the way a person looks at something they cannot immediately categorize. Not fear, not the usual careful respect he was used to receiving. Just a slightly confused, slightly amused tilt of the head. "You are not afraid of me." "Why should I fear you? Because your girlfriend just embarrassed you for airport like this in a free show? I beg, no vex, but that one no be my business. Here be your ring." He took the ring slowly, studying her name tag. Godiya Yakubu. "Godiya," he repeated, testing the syllables. "That is not a Korean name." "Because I no be Korean, sir. Last time I checked my mirror, I be full Nigerian. Black like midnight, proud like peacock." Something shifted in his face. It was small, barely there, but Blessing caught it from across the lounge and would spend the next 2 weeks teasing Godiya about it mercilessly. It was the look of a man who had just been publicly humiliated and, in the middle of his humiliation, found something that made him forget it for exactly 4 seconds. "Thank you, Godiya Yakubu. No wahala. And please, next time make your girlfriend. No they throw ring for public like that. Ya fit hit person I." He almost smiled. Almost. She did not think about him again until 3 days later, when she boarded a flight to Jeju Island and found him sitting in seat 2. Alone, no fiancé, no entourage. Just him and a black duffel bag he kept between his feet like it held something more valuable than clothes. "Oh," she said, unable to hide her surprise. "The ring man." "The lounge woman," he replied. "I have a name, sir?" "Godiya Yakubu, I remember." "And you are?" "Choi Seung-ho." "Nice to officially meet you, Mr. Choi. Would you like something to drink before takeoff? We have orange juice, water, and my personal recommendation, which is silence, because you look like a man who just had a very long week." This time he actually laughed, a short, surprised sound like it had escaped before he could stop it. And one of his bodyguards 2 rows back, a stocky man named Dae-sung, nearly choked on his own drink because in 3 years of working for Choi Seung-ho, he had never once heard his boss laugh on a flight. The flight to Jeju was smooth, but the real turbulence started after landing, because Godiya discovered very quickly that Choi Seung-ho was not simply a wealthy businessman with an embarrassing ex-fiancée. He was the kind of wealthy that came with bodyguards standing outside restaurant doors, the kind of wealthy that made restaurant owners personally come out to greet him, the kind of wealthy that made grown men look nervous just standing near his table. But none of that mattered to Godiya because 2 weeks later he specifically requested her flight again, and again, and again, until Blessing started calling it Mr. Choi's airline, as a joke that stopped being a joke once the head office noticed the pattern too. "Godiya, this man Don booked your flight 5 times this month," Blessing said one evening, flipping through the crew schedule with the excitement of someone reading a soap opera script. "Now, wouldn't be all this?" "I don't know. Maybe he likes the orange juice." "Nobody likes orange juice this much, my sister. This in a love story way they form?" "Blessing a beg, no put mouth for my business. The man just day travel a lot." "To Jeju, every single time, for no reason. A man who owns 3 private jets, flying commercial every single week, to sit in seat 2A on your flight. Godiya, wake up and smell the kimchi." Godiya rolled her eyes, but that night, lying in her small studio apartment in Itaewon, she found herself thinking about the way Choi Seung-ho had asked her, halfway through the Jeju flight, whether Nigerian food was as spicy as Korean food, and how his eyes had actually lit up like a child's when she described jollof rice to him in such loving detail that a passenger 2 rows away asked if they could order it. Their 5th flight together, something changed. He waited until most passengers had disembarked, until it was just her, him, and Dae-sung, standing awkwardly by the door pretending to check his phone. "Godiya, have dinner with me." "Sir, I didn't tell you. I know they do free food from strange men." "It is not free food. It is dinner. With me." "That's what I said. Free food from strange men." "I am not strange." "You are the strangest man I have met in Korea, and I have met a man who tried to sell me ginseng at 4 in the morning outside my apartment." Dae-sung, still pretending to check his phone, made a small sound that was definitely a laugh disguised as a cough. Seung-ho did not smile easily. Everyone who knew him would say that, but with Godiya, something about his face kept betraying him. "One dinner. If you hate it, you never have to see me again." "And if I don't hate it?" "Then you have dinner with me again." She agreed, mostly because Blessing threatened to report her to their supervisor for denying herself happiness if she didn't, and partly because if she was being honest with herself in the quiet of her own heart, she was curious about the man underneath the suit and the bodyguards and the reputation that made grown Korean businessmen lower their voices when they said his name. Dinner was not what she expected. He took her to a small restaurant that had no sign outside, tucked into an alley in Hongdae, the kind of place locals guarded like a secret. There were no bodyguards inside, just an elderly woman who greeted Seung-ho like a grandson and brought food without being asked what to bring. "This is where you eat?" Godiya asked, looking around at the plastic chairs and mismatched tables. "I thought a big man like you only eats where the plates get gold on top." "This is the only place I trust the food. My grandmother used to bring me here." You have a grandmother? I thought men like you were grown in a laboratory somewhere, fully suited, already angry at the world. I goo, he muttered, shaking his head, but there was warmth in it. You are very disrespectful for someone eating my food. Technically, the food belongs to Grandma over there, not you. He actually smiled at that, a real smile, and something in Godiya's chest did a small, dangerous flip that she immediately decided to ignore. Over dinner, she learned things the tabloids never printed, that his father had built the family business from nothing, and that nothing came with a weight that Seung-ho had been carrying since he was 19 years old. That the woman at the airport, Song Yoo-jin, was chosen for him by both families, an arrangement dressed up as love, and the engagement had cracked the moment she realized he would never fully hand his life over to the business the way her family wanted. That, underneath the suits and the reputation, he was a man who ate his food slowly, who noticed things, who had not laughed properly in longer than he could remember, until a Nigerian flight attendant told him off about a ring in an airport lounge. Jinja, he said quietly, near the end of the meal, you are the first person in years who talks to me like I am just a man. Because you are just a man, Oga. A very rich, very serious, very dramatic man, but still just a man. Dramatic? You flew commercial 5 times just to see one girl. That is not normal behavior for a billionaire. That is drama. Korean drama, in fact. He leaned back, studying her with an expression she could not quite name. Maybe I like drama. God help me, Godiya muttered under her breath, but she was smiling too. Their second dinner turned into a third and a fourth, and somewhere between the fourth and the fifth, Blessing stopped being the only person gossiping, because half of Incheon's cabin crew had noticed that Godiya Yakubu was glowing in a way that had nothing to do with new skincare products. Seung-ho started teaching her small Korean phrases between flights, laughing at her exaggerated pronunciation, and she taught him pidgin in return, doubling over in laughter the first time he attempted to say "no wahala" with a perfectly serious business tone, like he was closing a corporate deal. "Say it again," she demanded, wiping tears from her eyes. "No, wahala," he said, each syllable clipped and precise like he was defusing a bomb. Oga, relax your shoulders. Inobi war declaration. Just say the thing like water day flow. No wahala, he tried again, softer this time, and she clapped so hard Do-sung actually turned around to see what was happening. One evening, after their 6th dinner, walking along the Han River with the city lights spilling gold across the water, Seung-ho stopped walking entirely, and Godiya nearly bumped into his back. What happened? Why you just freeze like this? Are we under attack? No, I need to tell you something before this goes further, because you deserve to know who you are spending your time with. Something in his voice made her stomach tighten. Okay, I'm listening. My family's business. It is not only real estate and hotels, the way the newspapers describe it. There are parts of it that are dangerous. Parts of it that have made me enemies. If you continue to be seen with me, you become a target too. I need you to understand that before anything else happens between us. She was quiet for a moment, the wind pulling gently at her braids, the river reflecting 1,000 tiny lights beneath them. So you did tell me, say you be Mafia boss. Essentially, yes. Like the ones in the Korean dramas Blessing they watch every night. I don't know what dramas your friend watches, but yes, something like that. Godiya crossed her arms, tilting her head at him with the exact expression she used when a passenger tried to sneak an extra carry-on bag past her at the gate. Choi Seung-ho, I done survive Lagos traffic. I done survive my landlord threatening to throw my things for road because I pay rent 2 days late. I done survive immigration office wahala for this country. You think Korean Mafia go scare me? You should be scared. I never say I know they scared. I just say I know go run. Those are 2 different things. He looked at her like he was seeing something he had never encountered before in his life. And for the first time since the airport, since the ring, since the very first laugh she pulled out of him against his will, Choi Seung-ho reached out and took her hand, right there on the riverbank, under the gold city lights. Saranghae, he said quietly. You dey rush this thing, a beg. We just chopped dinner 6 times. I have known you 2 months. I have known Yujin my entire life and felt less than I feel now. Godiya's chest tightened in a way that had nothing to do with fear. Say it again, but this time, no be under pressure. Saranghae Godiya Yakubu. I love you too, Choi Seung-ho, even though you be complete stress package. He pulled her into him, and beneath the city lights, their first kiss happened slow and certain. The kind of kiss that made Da-sung, standing a respectful distance away pretending to check his phone again, quietly smile to himself because in 3 years he had never seen his boss look this unguarded. But peace, as Godiya's grandmother used to say, never stays long at any Nigerian's door, and it seemed Korean Mafia doors were no different. Song Yujin did not take rejection well. Word had spread through Seoul's elite circles that Choi Seung-ho, the man she had publicly humiliated at the airport, had moved on, and worse, had moved on with a foreign flight attendant. A black woman who worked in economy class before serving first class, a woman with no family name, no business connections, nothing that made sense to the world Yujin had built her entire identity around. Her pride could survive being dumped. It could not survive being replaced by someone she considered beneath her. She began showing up at places she knew Godiya would be. First, it was small things. A snide comment in the airport lounge loud enough for Godiya to hear. A photograph leaked to a gossip blog with the caption, asking why Korea's most eligible bachelor was slumming it with a foreign stewardess. Then it escalated. Godiya's landlord suddenly received a very generous offer to terminate her lease early. Her work schedule mysteriously changed twice in 1 week, moving her onto the most exhausting long-haul routes. When none of that worked, when Seung-ho only held onto Godiya tighter through each obstacle, Yujin did something far more dangerous. She reached out to her father's old business rival, a man named Baek Do-hyun, who had spent years waiting for a crack in Choi Seung-ho's empire to slip through. He humiliated me, she told Baek over expensive wine in a private room. And now he parades around with some African stewardess like the rest of us mean nothing. Find a way to remind him what he owes this world. Baek smiled the kind of smile that made whole boardrooms go quiet. Careful what you wish for, Miss Song. Once I get involved, I don't simply send a message, I finish conversations. Godiya, blissfully unaware that her name had become a bargaining chip in a war between 2 dangerous men, spent the following weeks falling deeper in love the ordinary way, laughing at Seung-ho's terrible attempts at pigeon, teaching him to eat jollof rice with his hands the way her mother taught her, introducing him over video call to her mother in Kaduna, who took one look at his serious face on the screen and immediately asked Godiya in rapid Hausa whether this man ever smiled or if she had fallen in love with a mannequin. Mama, he'd a smile, just give him chance. Tell your mother I smile every day, Seung-ho said solemnly, and Godiya burst into laughter so hard she nearly dropped her phone. Their romance became something Blessing referred to as the whole airline gist, crew members whispering excitedly every time Seung-ho boarded a flight just to sit beside Godiya during her break. Every time he showed up at arrivals with flowers wrapped in brown paper, because she once mentioned she found roses too predictable. He learned to say, I love you in 3 languages by the 3rd month, insisting on practicing the pidgin version until it was flawless. I'd a craze for you. A phrase that made Godiya laugh until her ribs hurt every single time he said it in his crisp, formal accent. But danger has a patient way of waiting for the happiest moments to strike. It happened on a Thursday evening. Godiya had just finished a flight and was walking to her car in the staff parking lot when 2 men in dark clothing stepped out from between the parked vehicles. She recognized the type immediately, the same watchful stillness she had seen in Seung-ho's bodyguards, except these men did not have the calm politeness of Dae-sung. These men had cold eyes and colder intentions. Miss Yakubu, one of them said, Mr. Baek would like a word. Tell Mr. Baek say I know, they collect appointment for parking lot at 9 o'clock in the night, a beg. The man did not laugh. He reached for her arm, and everything in Godiya's Lagos-trained instincts kicked in at once. She had grown up dodging area boys, learned early that hesitation got you robbed, and without thinking, she swung her heavy work bag directly into his face, the corner of her hardcover Korean phrasebook connecting solidly with his nose. He staggered back, cursing, and the second man lunged for her, but Godiya was already screaming at the top of her lungs, the kind of scream that could wake up half of Lagos, and within seconds airport security lights flooded the parking lot, and the men fled into the darkness. She called Seung-ho with shaking hands, and by the time he arrived 20 minutes later, his face had lost every trace of the softness she had grown to love, replaced entirely by something hard and dangerous that made even Dae-sung take a careful step back. Who did this? I don't know, but the way they talk, I fit guess. Somebody way vexe una relationship to embarrass them for society. Seung-ho's jaw tightened. Yoo-jin. Or that man everybody they whisper about for lounge beck. Blessing Dawn warned me say that man name always they follow trouble. That night marked the turning point in the story because Choi Seung-ho made a decision that would put him directly in Bayek's crosshairs. He called an emergency meeting with his own men, and for the first time in years moved openly against a rival, sending a clear message that anyone who touched Godiya Yakubu would face consequences beyond anything Bayek's small operation could survive. Bayek's response was not subtle. 3 days later, he arranged for Seung-ho to receive an invitation to a private business meeting at an abandoned hangar outside the city, framed as a peace offering, an attempt to smooth tensions between two powerful families. Seung-ho, against every instinct screaming at him that this was a trap, agreed to go, because Bayek made it clear in a private message that Godiya's safety depended entirely on his cooperation. Godiya found out only after he had already left, when Da-sung, torn between loyalty and fear for his boss's life, called her in a panic. He went alone. Beck is not a man who honors peace offerings. I tried to stop him, but he said he had no choice. Where is this hangar? Miss Yakubu, this is not your fight. Please stay where you are safe. Dae-sung, I don't tell you people already. I know be the type we go side and they watch person I love, they go inside danger alone. Where is the hangar? There are moments in life that reveal exactly who a person is underneath their job title and their passport, and the small, quiet life they had built for themselves in a foreign country. And this was Godiya's moment. She drove through the night with Dae-sung reluctantly guiding her, arriving at the hangar just as raised voices spilled out from inside, and through a gap in the metal doors she saw Seung-ho surrounded by 4 of Bayek's men. Bayek himself standing in the shadows, with the calm satisfaction of a man who believed he had already won. You should have stayed in your world, Choi, Bayek was saying. Instead, you chose to embarrass Yoo-jin's family and parade around with a foreign woman like our traditions mean nothing to you. This has nothing to do with tradition, Seung-ho replied. This is about your ego, Beck, and Yoo-jin's wounded pride. Careful how you speak. You are outnumbered and no one is coming to save you. That was when Godiya, without any plan beyond pure fury and love in equal terrifying measure, stepped through the gap in the door, gun trembling in her hand, the very same gun in the very same trembling hands from the opening of this story, because she had grabbed it from Dae-sung's glove compartment on the drive over, refusing to explain how she even knew it existed there. Ogabak, before anything else happened for this hangar tonight, I need you to know say I done survive worse men than you for Lagos, and I no come here today form drama. I come here to collect my man and go home. Every head in the hangar turned toward her, and for one suspended moment, nobody moved. Because nobody, not Bayek, not his men, not even Seung-ho, expected the small woman in a torn airline uniform to walk into a Mafia standoff and speak with the calm authority of someone ordering jollof rice at a family gathering. Beck laughed, low and mocking. You think that gun frightens me, little girl? I know they try frighten you, Oga. I dey warn you. Because where I come from, when a woman waka enter una wahala with confidence like this, nah, because she didn't already calculate, say, she get nothing to lose. Whether it was her fearlessness or the sudden arrival of Dae-sung with backup from Seung-ho's own men, who had quietly surrounded the hangar's exits during the confusion, or simply Bayek's own men losing their nerve at the unpredictability of the situation, chaos erupted within seconds. Seung-ho used the distraction to disarm the man closest to him. Dae-sung and the backup team moved in fast, and Godiya, gun still shaking violently in her grip, kept it aimed at Bayek the entire time, refusing to let her fear show even though every part of her wanted to run. By the time the fighting settled, Bayek lay pinned to the ground by two of Seung-ho's men, his earlier confidence completely drained from his face. And Seung-ho stood in front of Godiya, blood dripping from the cut above his eyebrow, staring at her like he had never truly seen her until this exact moment. You should not have come here. And you should not have come here alone, so we're even. Abeg dropped the lecture. You could have died. You could have died too, but here we both day. Still breathing. Still stubborn. He took the gun gently from her still shaking hands, passed it to Dae-sung, and pulled her into him so tightly she could feel his heart racing against her cheek. I told you my world was dangerous. And I told you I know they run. I meant it then. I mean it now. Somewhere in the hangar's chaos, sirens began approaching in the distance, alerted by one of the neighboring warehouse security guards, and within the hour, Baek's small empire began unraveling as the authorities, tipped off anonymously by Seung-ho's own network, uncovered enough evidence of his illegal dealings to keep him occupied with courts for years. Song Yoo-jin, once her involvement surfaced, quietly disappeared from Seoul's social circles altogether, her family too embarrassed by the scandal to defend her publicly. Weeks later, life slowly returned to something resembling normal. If normal could ever again apply to a Nigerian flight attendant dating one of Korea's most powerful men. Godiya still worked her flights, still argued playfully with Blessing about gossip, still taught Seung-ho new pigeon phrases every week, though now he greeted his own business associates with an occasional confident no wahala that left grown men confused and Dae-sung silently laughing behind his hand. One evening, back on the same riverbank where he had first told her he loved her, Seung-ho got down on one knee, pulling out a ring far simpler than the one Yoo-jin had once thrown at his chest. A ring that Godiya would later learn he had chosen specifically because it reminded him of the colors of her home country's flag. Godiya Yakubu, I have faced rival gangs, betrayal, and a very embarrassing airport breakup, and none of it frightened me as much as the thought of a life without you in it. Marry me. Godiya, tears already gathering in her eyes, looked at the man who once stood humiliated in an airport lounge, the man who learned her language just to make her laugh, the man who nearly lost his life defending hers. Only if you promise say you go keep practicing your pigeon because Oga, your accent still needs serious work. Is that a yes? Choi Seung-ho, that is the loudest yes this side of Lagos. He slid the ring onto her finger, and beneath the same golden lights that had witnessed their very first kiss, Seoul's most feared Mafia boss and Kaduna's boldest flight attendant sealed a love story that survived betrayal, danger, and one very trembling gun in an abandoned hangar. If this story made your heart race and your soul smile, you already know what to do. Drop a comment telling me exactly which part had you screaming at your screen, whether it was Godiya's pigeon threats, Seung-ho's terrible accent, or that hangar showdown that had your heart in your throat. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next Afro-Korean love story, because trust me, this channel is just getting started, and the next episode is going to hit even harder. Share this video with your girls who love a good bad boy redemption story, and let me know in the comments which couple you want to see next. Until then, this is your Afro-Korean romance corner, and I will see you in the next one.